Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Board. Mitchell Renz here from Chat Sports, ready and eager to answer all of y'all's questions. If you don't know, these are from our Friday happy hour show. We go live every single Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. First one rolling in here from Christian Perez, and it's a first-time Super Chat. Christian, cheers to you. Mitch, you a real one. I am real. Raiders going deep in the playoffs, I'm calling it. Christian, there is nothing more that I would love to see that happen. However, I don't think it's going to happen. And if you're calling me a real one, I need you to get a picture. That way I can identify that you're a real one too. Let's go to Sergeant Fighter. Sticking to the brand. Thank God it's Friday. Let's get Peters. Talking about Marcus Peters released a video on Saturday. For those of you not watching this, or for those of you watching this live or not watching this live, I don't know how to say it. There's going to be a video about Marcus Peters on Saturday. You can go see my opinion on that. Let's go to Kev. What up, Kev? Is this rumor about Hopkins for Renfro and a third-round pick? The amount of rumors out there around DeAndre Hopkins, around the Arizona Cardinals, around their third-round pick, it's circulating like crazy. And if the Raiders end up pulling off a deal, it would be interesting to me to see how it ends up going down. But honestly, I don't think Renfro ends up going to Arizona. And the reasons are, Hunter Renfro, for the Raiders to trade him away, they do end up eating some money. No doubt about it. And if you can get up to 3, I don't think that deters them whatsoever. But Arizona, to me, they know that they're not really in win-now mode. So I actually think that the Arizona Cardinals would probably rather prefer a draft pick than Hunter Renfro. They're not going to have Kyler Murray for the first 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. I don't know how many it's going to be. So I don't think Renfro was really involved in that. I think if the Raiders do trade for Hopkins, then look for Renfro to be a post-June 1st trade candidate. Let's go to Rico. What up, Rico? Mitch, Chugs. Everybody thinks the Raiders will trade for Mac Jones. What do you think? I would be shocked if the Raiders traded for Mac Jones. I literally said in a video 2 months ago, the worst things the Raiders could possibly do is sign Jimmy Garoppolo and trade for Mac Jones. If they did both, would it surprise me? No, because I don't think that McDaniels and ZIegler do the right things. But at the end of the day, the only way that the Raiders trade for Mac Jones, and I'm going to make this very clear, is if they miss on a quarterback in the draft. If they're just like, nah, the value's not there, we don't like anybody, then they could potentially get Jones. It's just, how much do you pay for him? I'm not giving anything more than at tops 4th rounder, and I mean at absolute tops a 4th round pick for Jones, which after the draft be a 4th rounder in 2024. There's some people out there that thinks that Mac Jones would still cost a first. If that's what it costs, no chance in hell I want Mac Jones. But what do you think here? If the Raiders don't draft a quarterback, should they trade for Mac Jones? Type T for trade, type P for pass. If I told you right now, the Raiders, they don't get a quarterback in the 2023 NFL draft, and it's Brian Hoyer as your backup, and New England comes up to you and says, hey, 4th round pick, Mac Jones, he's yours. Would you do it? In that scenario, I would do it because there's value there then with Mac Jones. However, though, if they want a second, there's just no way in hell I'm offering anything like that for Mac Jones. It just ultimately comes down to what the price tag is for the silver and black. Let's go to CT, C612. If we don't draft Anthony Richardson 3 to 4 years from now, we're going to be saying we could have had him. Imagine if we drafted him. There's a chance. That's the thing with Anthony Richardson. There is a legitimate chance he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He has that much God-given ability. However, though, he also is a quarterback that I don't think you can't play him in year 1. So forget about that. Even if you let him sit for a year, there's still a chance to me where his mechanics might not be finished and ready to go in year 2. Richardson is an incredible athlete. However, though, if you don't put him in the right scheme, if you don't put a lot of talent around him, he's going to struggle. Where, like what the Philadelphia Eagles did with Jalen Hurts, if you were to put Anthony Richardson in a Philadelphia Eagles offense, he's going to succeed. If you put him in an offense that's you expect him to carry the team, that ain't going to happen because he's not good at throwing the football. Let's go to Robert. Does signing Peters mean no Gonzalez and taking Carter at 7? No, I don't think that that's the case. I really don't think the Raiders take Jalen Carter at all. The only scenario in my mind where Jalen Carter is a possibility is if the Raiders were to trade back from 7 and they trade like back. Like I'm talking Washington trades up from 16, Baltimore trades up to like 22, and the Raiders are back there, and he just keeps on falling. But even if the Raiders were to sign Marcus Peters, I still think that they would, God, I hope so, they would still sign a cornerback because Peters is 30 years old. If you want daily videos around the Las Vegas Raiders, you want news, rumors, mailbags like you're watching right now, subscribe, join us every week. Hit that noti bell. I know we have a lot of fun during our live shows. And people who I know got their noties turned on are part of the Noti Gang. If you don't know what the Noti Gang is, it is the first 5 people that comment on a video when I drop it. So Raider Roger, Evan JD, David Gibson, Canadian Raider, and Anthony Sandoval. Pat yourself on the back. Impressive stuff there being a part of the Noti Gang. And Jeremy, that's a lot of new people. I also see Canadian Raider right now in the live chat. Let's go to Nada. We ever get a long snapper? Yes. Bobenmoyer is his name. I also know that the Raiders, there was a report out there, and I can confirm it. I talked to a few Raiders players. Daniel Carlson and also A.J. Cole were very upset with the Raiders coaching staff that they released Trent Sieg to hire Bobenmoyer, essentially, because they didn't feel like it was a necessary job, and they felt like their special teams unit has been very solid. And A.J. Cole has been a Pro Bowler. Daniel Carlson been a Pro Bowler. And they felt like one of the reasons why that they were Pro Bowlers is because they had a great long snapper, great relationship with Trent Sieg, and they were concerned and confused of why that regime was ultimately changed. So, yes, the Raiders do have a new long snapper, and A.J. Cole and Daniel Carlson are not happy about it. Let's go to Silly Little Goose. Bleacher Report said that the Raiders should trade up to 2 for a quarterback. Raiders get 2, Texans get 7, 3,800, and a first next year. Thoughts? Can you make that real quick? That's a lot to be able to digest. All right, so Jeremy's going to do his best to make this trade really quick here. All right, so the Raiders get a second. The Texans get your first, your second, and your second, third round pick, and a first next year. So this is the Bleacher Report trade idea. Raiders get the 2. I mean, if that's what it costs to go up there, I would do it. And the idea of, I think it's actually good value because if you look at trade value chart, if you look at a lot of people out there in terms of how much it would cost, it would actually cost the Raiders more than this to move up. It would be a good deal. However, though, I'm also in the camp of I would rather the Raiders not trade up for a quarterback this year, stockpile picks and the idea of no matter what, we're going to trade up for a quarterback or we're going to take a quarterback in this year's draft or next year's draft. I'm more in the boat of I would rather you save up picks for next year's draft than trade up because C.J. Stroud, I think he's going to be a good quarterback. Bryce Young, I think he's going to be a good quarterback. I'd rather have Drake May. I'd rather have Caleb Williams. If those guys were in this year's draft, then sure, let's get this thing up and popping. So I want to know, who wins this trade? Raiders, Texans. If McDaniels and ZIegler do not want to wait, and they're like, no chance, we're waiting until 2024, and they're like, no matter what, we're taking a QB in the first round, then I do think that this value ends up checking out. If you are going to be watching us during the draft, hopefully you got your Raiders draft hat on. Go to chatsports.com/Raiders draft to get the official Raiders draft hat. They are on sale right now at the time I am recording this video. So whether you need a snapback, whether you need a curved brim, the trucker hat, I think is what they call it, a fitted, man, they got them in black. They got them in silver as well. And I love these ones a lot more than last year. I got to get my hands on a few of these. And word on the street is we might be doing some giveaways with these as well during the draft. But if you don't want to wait, go to chatsports.com/Raiders draft. This next one rolling in here on today's mailbag is from Gilbert Mejia. What would it take to get pick 3 and Hopkins? Well, this morning I released a video. I shouldn't say this morning. If you're watching live, I released a video this morning on Friday about a trade idea involving DeAndre Hopkins. On top of that, we've been talking about this one for quite some time. So the trade that I put out in terms of value was Raiders get number 3, Raiders get DeAndre Hopkins. It's also on my Instagram, at Mitchell Renz 365. And then in return, Arizona gets your pick 7, your first-round pick next year. And then the Raiders also have to give up a second-round pick, and then I believe a third-round pick in next year's draft on top of that. Let's go to Dan Bryant. Do you think trading a tag Jacobs for 3 is possible? No. It's not even close. One, the Raiders aren't going to do it. Two, there's no way. You would have to still throw in a first-round pick. Like, if it was Josh Jacobs tagged, I would say you'd have to still swap your first-round picks. You throw in a Josh Jacobs, and then you're still more than likely going to have to throw in at least a first-round pick in next year's draft. The problem with running backs is people don't value the running back position. On top of that, the Arizona Cardinals aren't going to try to win this season because Kyler Murray's hurt. And because Kyler Murray's hurt, that's why all these DeAndre Hopkins rumors are out there, because they don't want to pay him $19.5 million, or it's actually even more than that for them. It's like 28. They don't have to pay the money. They want to save money this year, suck this year essentially, and then go all in when Murray's healthy in 2024. Let's go to Vincenzo, one of our OGs here. I heard the Raiders met with Justin Ford out of Montana. Do you think he could be a UDFA? This is true. The Raiders did absolutely meet with him. The problem with Ford is it's going to come down to, like, if the Raiders want players, right? Like, any player that the Raiders meet with, there's a possibility that they could take him. They got 12 picks, and if he's a 5th rounder, a 6th rounder, a 7th rounder, it could come down to how much special teams value he has. I know when you come from a small school, the Raiders, what they're going to look for is versatility. Do they think that you can be teachable? Are you a team leader, and do you have special teams value? If all of those 4 are checked off, then there's a chance he gets drafted. If the Raiders are a little bit unsure, then he might fall down the board. But if I was Ford, I would absolutely want to go to the Raiders. Let's go to Gancho's Tamales. Should the Raiders sign Myles Jack? This is going to be an unpopular opinion, probably, because Myles Jack carries a lot of name value. No. Myles Jack at one time was a very premier linebacker. But unfortunately, he has a knee condition where he doesn't like regrow cartilage, or it's something like that, and it becomes bone on bone. Same thing as Todd Gurley. And Todd Gurley's 27 years old. He's already out of the league. And you've seen him just get worse and worse and worse and worse. And unfortunately, it's not going to work out. You go back, you look at a lot of these knee injuries. Jay Ajayi, he also had the exact same knee injury. Their careers just simply cannot last. And for that, I'm not going to invest in the linebacker position, even though it's still a need for this team. But there's some good linebackers in the draft. My answer was no. But I do this show because I like interacting with the nation. I like seeing what you guys have to say, especially the big ballers out there like Sergio Orozco. Give me a Y for yes. Give me an N for no. Should the Raiders sign Myles Jack? Let's go to Juan. What up, Juan? Did you hear anything on Raider fan wants OBJ on the Raiders? OBJ's not coming to the Raiders, man. Beckham probably wants more money. And also on top of that, Beckham does not sound like a team-first guy to me. You can say what you want about Beckham. He might have talent, this and that. But does anybody think that Odell Beckham Jr. is a team-first guy? My answer to that is simply no. Now, before we head on out of today's mailbag, if anybody wants to hang out with Jeremy Chuggs and I, Saturday, April 15th, 7 p.m. Central Time is when we're going to be at this address. Put it in your calendar right now, 2208 Central Drive, Bedford, Texas. TNBC, the Raiders group down here in Dallas / Arlington, is going to be throwing an event. It starts at 4 p.m. It goes until midnight. And you see Jeremy and I, we do beer bongs. Maybe we'll take the shot fun. I don't know. We're definitely taking some boots. And if anybody wants to challenge Jeremy or myself to boots, beer bongs, we're going to have a hell of a time. Food there looks like it's going to be rocking. A lot of prizes. There's vendors. There's all sorts of stuff. But it's just cool to hang out with Raider Nation. So if you want to see Jeremy and I, that's the date. Save it in your calendar. Hopefully we see you there. This one rolling in here, and it's a super thanks. Remember, if you can't join our live shows and you send in the super thanks, we will put you up on the show. Ox. Thanks from Ox3131. Based on character alone, which quarterback prospect is the best for pick 7? Thank you for everything you guys do at Chat Sports. Appreciate all the content. Based on character alone, I'll say this. CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, they ain't going to be there at 7. So if you want to be able to pick on character and character alone at number 7 based on Will Levis and Anthony Richardson, there are more people that are probably worried about Will Levis's off the field than Richardson, because There are some people that don't think Will Levis is as coachable from who I talk to in sorts of inner circles. So because of that, I'll say Richardson. However, I think the Raiders think that they can run their offense with Will Levis a little bit easier. If I missed your question, remember, you can always hit me up on social media at Mitchell Renz 365. Make sure you stay up to date on everything going on around the Las Vegas Raiders. Twitter, IG, Cameo, I'm basically everywhere at Mitchell Renz 365. Enjoy. For those of you watching live, have a hell of a weekend. If you're watching this on Sunday, be safe out there and make sure you watch the Masters.